You're at home. It's a Tuesday evening, nothing happening, and you go outside to check the mail. On the way back, you notice it's been raining and there's a nice little puddle forming in your garden. You grab a bucket from the shed. You put the bucket under the drain pipe. A police officer arrests you. That happened in the United States, in living memory, and it was completely legal. Today, we're looking at things that are technically, verifiably, entirely within the law and absolutely, catastrophically should not be. Not edge cases, not technicalities that exist in a single county in a state nobody's heard of. Things that are genuinely, demonstrably fine according to the law that will make you want to sit down and have a serious conversation with whoever's in charge. Let's start in Britain, because Britain is a country that has been making laws for about 1,000 years and somehow still missed this one. In the UK, eating roadkill is completely legal. You can pick up a dead animal from the side of the road, take it home, cook it, serve it to guests. Totally fine. There are actual roadkill cookbooks in print. A restaurant in Gloucestershire ran a roadkill tasting menu in 2012. The most popular dish was hedgehog. The guests paid for it. The hedgehog did not consent, but that is somewhat beside the point. Here's the bit that breaks my brain, though. It's not legal if you hit the animal yourself. The Wildlife and Countryside Act was designed to stop poaching, so if you deliberately struck a pheasant with your car and then peeled it off the road, that's illegal. But if someone else hit it and you happened to be driving behind them, finders keepers, you're fine. Legally spotless. The law has very strong opinions about premeditation and basically none about the rest of it. A normal person writing wildlife legislation would just say, "Don't eat roadkill." Nobody did that. Moving on. Speaking of things falling from the sky that nobody made a rule about, in several countries there is no law governing who owns a meteorite. Rocks from space. Nobody owns them. If a meteorite lands on public land in Argentina or large parts of Europe, you can just pick it up and it's yours. In the US, it's technically federal property if it lands on federal land, but enforcement is essentially zero, and on private land it belongs to whoever owns the ground, which has generated some genuinely unhinged legal disputes. A farmer in Kansas found a meteorite weighing over 1,400 pounds on his property in 2005, sold it for $1.7 million, and the state tried to claim it. The courts ruled for the farmer. He bought a boat. I genuinely respect that detail. He didn't buy a truck, he bought a boat. A man with 1,400 pounds of space rock and a boat. Living. The meteorite black market is estimated in the tens of millions of dollars annually. A fragment of Mars, actual Mars, a piece of another planet, can be worth more per gram than gold. And in a lot of places, the legal framework for this is just whatever. Grab it. Go nuts. The rocks have been falling for 4 billion years. Nobody got around to writing the paperwork. Now, I want to take a slight left turn here because the next one is going to require you to emotionally prepare. In several U.S. states, it is completely legal to marry someone while knowingly concealing a terminal diagnosis. I know. Stay with me. Fraud in marriage law is extremely narrow. It generally covers things like identity and fertility, stuff courts decided ages ago was core to the contract of marriage. Health? Privacy. Your business. Courts have ruled repeatedly that a dying person choosing not to disclose their condition before getting married does not constitute grounds for annulment. The surviving spouse is married. Fully, legally married, which means, depending on the state, they may also be fully, legally on the hook for whatever that person left behind. There's a case from Ohio in 2019. A woman discovered after her husband died that he'd known about a terminal diagnosis before they married. He died 8 months after the wedding. The court ruled no grounds for annulment. She inherited his debts. I want to be clear that I found this out at about 11 o'clock on a weeknight, and I did not handle it well. I'm not going to editorialize further because I think the facts are doing enough work on their own. Let's just move forward. On a completely different note, a much more cheerful note, did you know you can buy a flamethrower? Not in a military context, not on a black market, online, with regular money. It ships to your door.
In 48 U.S. states, there is zero federal regulation on flamethrowers. No license, no background check, no registration, because the ATF classifies them as neither firearms nor explosives, which means they fall entirely outside federal weapons law. They are, legally speaking, a garden tool.
In 2018, Elon Musk's Boring Company sold 20,000 flamethrowers. They called them not a flamethrower, which is honestly the most Elon Musk thing I've ever heard, for $500 each. They sold out in 4 days. That's $10 million worth of functional flamethrowers sold online with no more legal friction than buying a leaf blower. After the launch, a man in Texas posted a video of himself using one to clear snow from his driveway. The comments were overwhelmingly positive. America is something else. Now, same country, completely opposite energy. Until 2016, collecting rainwater in Colorado was illegal. Rain, from the sky, on your roof. Not yours. Legally, under prior appropriation water law, which covers most of the western U.S., water rights are assigned based on historical downstream usage. Intercepting rainwater before it reaches the river system technically deprives whoever holds those rights further along. The logic is internally consistent in a way that does not make it any less completely unhinged. In 2012, a man in Oregon named Gary Harrington was sentenced to 30 days in jail for collecting rainwater on his own 170-acre property. He'd built 3 reservoirs over the years. The state's position was that he was stealing public water. He served the time. Colorado didn't legalize basic residential rainwater collection until 2016, and even now, Utah limits you to 2 containers of 100 gallons each. This is the same country where you can have a flamethrower delivered to your house. I just want to note that. You can have a flamethrower, you cannot have a barrel of rain. Okay, Japan now, because Japan has its own relationship with what is and isn't legally a good idea. Fugu, pufferfish, is one of the most dangerous things you can eat. It contains tetrodotoxin, a neurotoxin with no antidote that is, depending on which source you believe, somewhere between 1,200 and 1,400 times more toxic than cyanide. In Japan, preparing fugu in a restaurant requires 2 to 3 years of specialist training and a government license. The liver is the most toxic part. Restaurants are banned from serving it. Home preparation is completely unregulated. You can catch a pufferfish yourself, take it home, attempt to prepare it, and the law has absolutely nothing to say about it. About 30 to 50 people are hospitalized in Japan every year from fugu poisoning. The majority are from home preparation. The hospitals have a protocol because they need one. And apparently, from what I've read, and I've read some things I probably shouldn't have, the liver is genuinely considered the best tasting part. People keep trying it at home specifically because restaurants won't serve it. The law drew a line, and that line appears to have functioned primarily as a dare. And now, the last one. I genuinely debated whether to include this because it's the one that stayed with me the longest after I found it. But that's exactly why it's here. In community property states in the U.S., and there are 9 of them, debts incurred during a marriage are shared between both spouses. That includes debts the other spouse didn't know about. Credit cards opened secretly, medical bills, business loans that went wrong. If your spouse ran up $60,000 in debt you had no idea existed, and they die, that debt is yours. The law doesn't require disclosure. It doesn't require knowledge. It just requires that you were married. Debt collectors are legally permitted to contact a surviving spouse within days of a death. There's a case I found. A widow in Arizona, 71 years old, received a call from a collections agency the day after her husband's funeral. He'd had $60,000 in credit card debt she knew nothing about. Under community property law, it was hers. She hadn't signed for it. She hadn't known. She was 71. She just buried her husband, and someone called her the next day about a balance. I found this on a Tuesday, and I'm telling you about it now because I think you should know it exists. Check your state laws. Talk to your partner. I'm not a lawyer, and none of this is legal advice, but I am a person who found this and couldn't sleep properly afterwards, and that feels like information worth sharing.
The law is a document written by humans, which means it has all of the gaps, oversights, and completely baffling omissions that implies. Most of the time, you don't notice, and then you find out that someone went to jail for a rain barrel in the same country where a flamethrower ships in 3 to 5 business days, and you have to sit with that for a while. If you want more completely unhinged things that are somehow real, there's a video on screen right now that I think you're going to enjoy, or at least find deeply unsettling in a productive way. And as always, bro, got you.